Back in studio, Joe Musso, pleased to be alongside Emory Hunt and Ryan Wilson. Time to take a look at your AFC playoff picture and assess some of those fates at the bottom. The Broncos, the Dolphins, and yes, the Texans. However, they might be a division leader at last check, but issues there as well. We're going to dive into it all as you take a snapshot of what it might look like as, you smell that?
What's that?
Turkey's in the oven. Football means more. The holidays are here, and that's when winning time comes around. Let's start with the Dolphins, because starting the season, usually off and running under Mike McDaniel, dealing with some uncontrollable circumstances there. But since Tua's return, they've looked like a playoff team at times. When you assess what's in front of them, both schedule and in those rankings, and what they've been as of late, Emory, how real are those chances in your eyes?
They are real, but they're going to need a lot of help, man, because they've put themselves in a hole because of the Tua injury. And it's not because of anything of his own, just that unfortunate situation happened. Because when you think about how they're playing now, they look like the Dolphins we expected to look like in the preseason, right? And so who can they catch? Everyone in that playoff, they can catch Houston, but they don't play in the same division,
it's
right?
Looking like the Broncos are...
Exactly, for real.
Yeah.
And so now Tua's playing well. The defense is looking really well. We saw Chop Robinson have some success today, rushing the passer. I just think it may be a little bit too little too late, considering where the Ravens and Chargers and Broncos are sitting.
It's week 12. We got time, and we spent the first half of the season talking of Jaden Daniels, and the wheels are a little squeaky on the Washington Mobile, and maybe that's the same situation with Denver Broncos and a young Bo Nix. I will say this. There is no player, and I don't think this is an exaggeration, you guys can push back if you want to, more important to his team than Tua Tagovailoa, because when he was not there, it looked like football had been set back 150 years.
You want to get, he's getting the MIP from you right now, most important player?
Most important player without a doubt, and I think it is critical to keep him healthy, and they've done a good job with that. And when he's out there slinging it, throwing with anticipation more so than any other quarterback in this league, we saw Jalen Waddle, get involved today finally. Jonnu Smith, I didn't know he was still in the league. He came and balled out. And I think Emory's point's an important one. There's some hurdles you have to clear, but it won't be from lack of offensive productivity now that Tua's back in the fold.
Smith's been a big piece of what they've been over these last 3 weeks. Jonnu finding the end zone with regularity, filling that role that they need. I don't know if it's the piece that unlocks it, but the running game getting back to speed, the tight end showing up, and we're looking at a schedule that goes Packers, Jets, Texans, Dolphins, Browns, Jets. Excuse me. Dolphins will not play the Dolphins. The Dolphins will play the 49ers that week. They do have some serious teams out in front of them, so we'll see what the stretch run does look like for them. Let's talk about the Texans, who they will face off with later this season, and where they currently stand. Losers in 3 of their last 4. It's not clicking the way it did in the rookie season of C.J. Stroud. The pass rush is getting home, but it's not equaling wins. Where are you seeing the flaw right now, Ryan?
Offensive line, and Joe Mixon has been an incredibly important part of that offense. On Sunday, he didn't do anything, no fault of his own. But it feels like we give Sam Darnold a hard time for admitting that he was seeing ghosts. Quarterbacks see ghosts all the time, and I would not be shocked to learn that in his heart of hearts, C.J. Stroud is seeing ghosts with the suspect play that offensive line, because they have not been good. And you could say, well, Bobby Slowick, sophomore slump, C.J. Stroud, sophomore slump. I'll take those 2 dudes over a lot of the guys in the NFL in terms of play caller and quarterback. But NFL is tough, man. It's tough week to week. It's tough series to series. It's tough play to play. And if you're not protecting your quarterback, it doesn't matter. To your point, Danielle Hunter is balling out. Will Anderson healthy, balling out. They had a really good draft class, especially on defense. But if you're not protecting the quarterback, you're going to see these ups and downs, and the offensive explosiveness just isn't here in 2024 like it was a year ago.
Emory, we were talking, sorry to cut you off, I just want to take you to the division, because we were talking about Atlanta's situation a couple weeks ago where no one's really going to threaten them. They have this room between them and everybody else. That feels like the Texans situation, still 2 games between they and the Indianapolis Colts right now. Do you think that breathing room in a way is working against them, the urgency that they might not be playing with right now?
I think so, and because when you look at the Colts are starting to figure things out, but they lost those 2 games to the Houston Texans, so they lost that ability to try to catch those guys. And when you think about Houston, I feel like C.J. Stroud kind of got high on his own supply last year and how he played, because he's missing these layups in this season in terms of like, hey, man, don't try to make the hero play, the highlight play every throw. Just hit the check down or check into a run play, get Mixon involved. But when you're looking at the Texans, having that 2-game cushion, they kind of feel like, okay, well, yeah, we dropped this one, it's okay. But at the end of the day, if the Colts catch fire, and now you find yourself having to win in type of scenario like you did last year against those Colts, but even though they don't play them anymore, things could get sticky down there in Houston.
By the way, C.J. Stroud doesn't play defense, too.
There you go.
Also working out.
Just because you did it doesn't mean you're going to do it, but the guy who's doing it right now is one that would love to hold the award that Stroud did a year ago. Bo Nix and the Broncos certainly have some momentum on their side. Let's say things stand pat in that playoff picture, if we could take another look at it. I think the Broncos, if anybody, are the odd man out, if you will, right now, and it's odd to say with the football that they're playing, but that's the team that everybody on the outside looking in is going to be rooting against. I'm not sure we see a slide out of the Chargers. The Ravens going to be battling there. Could be a division winner still. Steelers obviously have the upper hand there, but the Broncos in that 7 seed, if it's the Dolphins, Colts, and some are saying mathematically still the Bengals, not I, fighting for that final seed. What do the Broncos look like right now? Do you give them the coaching advantage, the quarterback? Where do they have the advantage over, let's say, Miami as the reference point?
All right, let's play a game. Let's do this game show host this thing real quick. Next up, the Cleveland Browns, win or loss?
It's a win.
So it gets to 8. Bye, and then the Colts.
Toss up.
So, and then they have the Chargers, the Bengals, the Chiefs. My point is this. 10 wins probably is safe. So they got to win 3 of these next 5 games here. And it feels eminently possible for the reasons you're talking about. And when you were describing C.J. Stroud, less hero ball, I'm thinking more Bo Nix ball.
Yeah.
And that may not be sexy. Checkdowns, slants, hand the ball off, rip a deep ball every once in a while, and that recipe with a balling out defense makes life a lot easier for a young quarterback, even a young quarterback who's 24 years old. But the other issue is another one you emphasize there, Joe. Sean Payton knows what he's doing, and he's one with all sorts of quarterbacks, all different shapes and sizes. So credit him for trusting his own eyeballs and not listening to the noise, and for Bo Nix playing the way he's playing and getting Cortland Sutton back into the grooves that we saw early in his career before that ACL injury.
Emory, it could come down to both health and horoscope for all of these teams, for all that we know in the NFL this season. Still so much football to be played, but they're playing a high level of football right now, these Broncos.
It's the belief factor. Bo Nix and his team is now starting to believe that they can win these ball games. It has gone from can we win or could we win to now we believe we should win. We expect to win. And it's hard to beat a team if they're not beating themselves.
Right.
The Broncos don't beat themselves. So you have to play your best game against this Denver Broncos team because they're not going to help you out. And Bo Nix has done a great job just delivering the football to anybody that's open. He's not forcing things. When the lane is there, he's taking off and run. He's being a little bit more judicious in that regard. And I just like the fact that we're starting to see Nick Bonito do a great job of coming on. He made 2 big plays in this game, 2 big plays a couple of weeks ago. So they're starting to get the pass rush. They're going to get healthier with Riley Moss coming back at some point. So this team now, I think them in the spot 7 is perfect for them because now Sean Payton can keep coaching.
And by the way, 2 weeks ago, they had the Chiefs beat.
Yeah. I mean, right. So this team, I don't think it's going to be hard for the Bengals, the Colts, for all these teams to try to catch them because I don't see them.
They get to 10, it feels like a wrap.
They're not dropping the game by themselves.
As we know in the NFL, the margin between 1 and 32 is oftentimes slim. Going to be a blast over this next month and a half watching it all play out in the AFC. Thank you, fellas. Back in studio, Joe Musso, Emory Hunt, Ryan Wilson, here to talk playoff picture in the NFC. Thanksgiving is approaching us. Favorite dish, go.
Oh, fried turkey.
Sweet potato pie.
Fantastic answers.
Straight for dessert.
It all comes very close. That means the football means more when we get on the other side of those leftovers. As we take a look now at what's left over in the NFC, looks like 2 teams separating themselves from all others. That's with respect to the Vikings, Lions, and Eagles. Playing a cut above right now. Division leaders also include the Seahawks and Falcons at 6-5, the going rate. A logjam there in the West. And then the South is the South. The Buccaneers are giving chase to those Falcons. The Vikings, meantime, come away with an overtime win against the Bears to move ahead to 9-2. The Packers and Commanders rounding out that wild card position. 8-3 for the Packers and in 3rd place in the North. All right, fellas, got to start with the Eagles in that performance. 7 games in a row out of the bye week. The sky was falling going into the bye week. We're talking about the coach's job. Now we're talking about what could be a running back running towards an MVP trophy. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but as you project this team towards the playoff picture, what can Saquon mean to an effort like that if he does keep this pace, knowing that you have a back like that to lead your effort to the playoffs?
That's how you can close out ball games. When things are tight, you hand the ball out to a guy wearing number 26 and he can do stuff like this. This is the type of back you draft in the 1st round. This is the type of back you draft pretty high because this is no different than a deep ball to excellent wide receiver. You just turn around and hand it off to him, and he can do the rest. So when you have the ability to really break the game open and crack open a tight game with a home run hitting back, this is worth its weight in gold in the postseason.
Ryan, when you look at this Eagles team and how they've seamlessly added Saquon Barkley to the offensive attack, the thing that always comes to mind when there's a player that's taking this sort of touch on a team that already had stars is the humility that it takes from the stars on that offense. Do you get a sense that this is an Eagles team that just wants to celebrate their star back right now?
Yeah, and Saquon is a guy who doesn't want the adulation. He wants to spread the love around and not be the star of the show, even though he clearly is, at least in this instance. But to your larger point, I think I don't want to say it was a weak spot, but they didn't have a Saquon Barkley in the backfield not named Jalen Hurts. Take some pressure off Jalen Hurts. We know the home run ability that Saquon Barkley has, and it makes everyone else's job easier, from wide receiver to offensive lineman, by the way. You don't have to sustain blocks. It's one cut and go, and we saw the rest. You read in the back of his jersey on his way to the end zone, and you talk about those long handoffs, or the handoffs are like long passes, except completion percentage for Jalen Hurts on those handoffs is 100%.
Right.
And that makes your life easier, one less thing you have to worry about. And, Joe, you asked me this afternoon, could the Philadelphia Eagles challenge the Detroit Lions? And I hemmed and hawed because they hadn't been as consistent over the course of the season. This game is going to cause me to reevaluate things a little bit, because one game, 60 minutes of football, anything can happen, and you have to feel really good about what Saquon brings to that offense, no matter who you're playing.
And we have to tip our caps to the Hog Mollies up front. Those are two of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Just not a backfield with the Lions, just not a star back with the Eagles, but fellas out front that lead the way. So obviously the through line there is offensive line play, something that comes at a premium in today's NFL. We had a big result between the Packers and the 49ers, and one I think we sort of felt coming with all the omissions on the 49ers side of things. Doesn't matter, you got to play with who you got. Let's examine this from both sides, starting with the Packers. 6 of their last 7, but Emory, you've expressed some reservations about this team and their viability long term. What gives you pause about the Packers?
I want them to play a clean game in terms of this is a game they should have dominated San Francisco, and the score may look like they dominated San Francisco, but the 49ers kind of hung around, and they didn't stick with what was working for them in terms of their strong hand. Their strong hand was their run game. They got away from it to try to feature the passing game, work on that against this defense, and it kind of sputtered, got inconsistent, and when they went back to their run game, that's when they were able to deliver the knockout blow to San Francisco. So I want to see this team sort of play a complete game, finish a game against a team that they had the upper hands against, and go from start to finish with that knockout blow.
I mean, look at the top 4 backs in the NFL by some measure or another. Saquon Barkley wearing a different jersey. Derrick Henry wearing a different jersey. Josh Jacobs wearing a different jersey. Joe Mixon wearing a different jersey. It's run game first, but the quarterback has to play at a certain level. Do you see that level from Jordan Love right now?
Not right now consistently, but I feel okay with where they are for a couple of reasons. Matt LaFleur is very good at his job, and it's interesting that the offense took a next step after Aaron Rodgers moved on, and they were able to run the things that Matt LaFleur thought was in the best interest of that offense, and we saw Jordan Love, take that next step. He was banged up in week 1. Perhaps he's still lingering issues there. The other thing I come back to is, let's go back to last January, where they played on the road in Dallas and beat Dallas like they stole something in their own house. And then they went to San Francisco and had a chance in that game until a late Jordan Love turnover, and that's sort of what we're talking about here. The other thing is, I would like Christian Watson to catch balls that are thrown to him. As you pointed out earlier, Joe, Jordan Love did have some turnover-worthy plays. I feel like those things get cleaned up, but they have a ton of playmakers, young guys at wide receiver and tight end. The defense is the ball hawks. We talked about Xavier McKinney. They do need to play a little more consistent on defense as well, but I think this defense under Jeff Hafley has made a huge step over what they've had previously when Donatell was there, and I feel pretty good about the explosiveness in this offense. But to your larger points, both of you, they got to play more consistently.
On the Niners side of this conversation, I feel like we're slamming the panic button and it's not connected to anything because that West is leaving them alive. Is this salvageable, Ryan? I know by the numbers it obviously is, but health is a question, playmaking a question from some of those names that we assumed it from. It's just not there right now. Do you think this is a team that can flip that switch still?
I want to say no. It's 5-6. There's a month of football to go and change, so maybe things change. But hope ain't a plan, right? So you need Christian McCaffrey to pretend like it's 2022. He's been banged up, and we know that. You need Brock Purdy healthy. Brandon Ayuk is done for the year. You need Deebo Samuel to play like he did today as opposed to the early part of the season where he sort of struggled. And those things haven't happened yet. So I think there's a lot to ask. There's a lot of variability in the rest of that division, but I feel better about where Kyler and the Cardinals are, even though they lost today. I feel better about where Geno Smith and the Seahawks are, with that defense playing good coming out of their bye week. And I have a lot of questions. Even the Rams, they came up against a tough Eagles opponent tonight. I have a lot of questions about the health not so much the play calling with Kyle Shanahan, but the health of this team in San Francisco to be able to get it done over the final stretch here.
I feel like teams don't fear San Francisco anymore, especially
not the way they did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the division, the Cardinals were taking shots at them. Seahawks were taking it to them. The Rams, we know they take it to them every time. And we saw Green Bay, hey, we gonna run right at you. We dare you to stop it. We know there's no Nick Bosa right there. Stop the run. And so teams don't fear the logo on the helmet anymore. I think that's the issue that San Francisco is going to have this season.
Think back to just last year when they essentially broke Philadelphia. That losing streak down the stretch was that fearfulness that they put into a team, the way that they were physical, the way they dominated, and their health in many ways. A quick thought here, gentlemen, on the Commanders, who have lost a third straight game. They still remain in a wild card position with their rookie quarterback, who has been a star at times, but the play, it's waning in others. Emory, what's your chief concern about the Commanders right now, and is that a playoff team in your eyes moving forward?
Can they play mature football down the stretch? Because right now, even though they just lost to Philadelphia, I can trust the Rams in a tight spot. I can trust what I've seen from the Bucs in a tight spot. I don't know if I can trust this young, pieced-together roster of the Washington Commanders with a rookie quarterback that's on a 3-game losing streak.
3 words. I think it's 3 words. Stop the bleeding. That's what you got to do.
Good.
You've had 3 losses in a row. Steelers, Eagles, Cowboys. You're playing Tennessee at home. There's no excuse. If you lose that game, you're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you get to 10 wins, as we've talked about, you're going to have your bye week after Tennessee, and then you play the Saints. Then all you have to do is squeeze out 1 win, whether it's the Eagles, Falcons, or the Cowboys, and you're almost certainly in. So start with Tennessee. Again, if you lose that game, it's a wrap. Take your bye, get healthy, and then take it to the Saints, and then you feel much better about where you are than where you currently find yourself after these 3 straight losses.
We will see how it all shakes out, but it was a wild Week 12 in the NFC and elsewhere. My favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Yeah.
Big ziti.
Big ziti.
Different spread at the Musso house. We did the turkey, too, but you got to have a little.
I would have went mac and cheese. Big ziti is good. It's on that line.
It's the Musso's mac and cheese.
Shout out to Kraft.
Ryan Wilson, we appreciate you guys as always.